Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles. In today's story, we take a look at Kathy and James. How Kathy ruined her life as a result of her degenerate choices. Kathy and I have been married for 6 years, and I thought we were a happy couple. I loved her dearly with all my heart and soul. After all, she was the most wonderful woman I had ever met. Kathy and I first crossed paths at a guitar class. She was the kind of woman who attracted a lot of male attention due to her beauty. Needless to say, I was one of her admirers, but being an introvert, I never had the guts to ask her out. If it wasn't for Kathy, who made the first move and approached me, my life might have taken a different course. I was quite skilled at playing the guitar, and she was a newbie at the music house. I vividly remember the day when Kathy first approached me. I was engrossed in practicing my new notes when someone tapped me from behind, saying, "Hey John, it's Kathy." She needed help with her music lessons, and she came to me for assistance. That was the beginning of a 2-year relationship. During our courtship, we were both working individuals, but after marriage, Kathy decided to quit her job and pursue a career in music. I worked in a corporate office, so I didn't initially see any financial challenges with Kathy's decision. My salary was enough to support our lifestyle for both of us. Little did I realize that I was becoming her financial support system. Kathy had expensive tastes in clothing, perfumes, and more. I obliged all her demands as a good husband. As I mentioned earlier, Kathy is a social and extroverted person who makes friends easily, while I struggle to make friends quickly. To be honest, I adore her for her friendliness and her ability to bond so well with all my friends, even while I was still struggling to get comfortable with hers. I would have never found out the truth or even doubted her if I hadn't seen those unsettling conversations she had with my friends about a month ago. It all started when my laptop unexpectedly crashed while I was in the middle of something important. I needed to finish my work, so I reached out to Kathy's laptop. She wasn't home at the time, and her laptop was locked. I called her to get the password, but she didn't respond, as she was out shopping with her friends, or at least that's what she told me. I tried various combinations of alphabets and numbers to unlock her laptop, and after attempting several combinations, including our anniversary day and her name, I finally unlocked it using her birthdate. Of course, she loves herself that much. When I logged into the laptop, I noticed that the browsers were open, but I didn't bother to check the minimized windows. I focused on my work. However, as I was busy, I noticed several notifications popping up in one of the tabs. It was WhatsApp. She had been logged into her WhatsApp through her laptop and left it open. After completing my work, as I was about to shut down the laptop, something inside me told me to click on it. I felt a bit creepy for looking at my wife's WhatsApp conversation, but curiosity got the better of me. She wasn't answering my calls, and she was actively chatting on WhatsApp. So, I clicked on the WhatsApp tab hesitantly. As I looked at her messages, I experienced a gut-wrenching revelation. It was true, she was online and chatting with someone. The initial conversations seemed innocent, indicating that she had just left the place of the person she was talking to, and they were already missing each other. This discovery shook my world to its core. I clicked on the profile picture, and my shock knew no bounds. It was my friend Tony. I just shook my head in disbelief. Kathy was cheating on me with Tony. I scrolled further, delving into the darkness of the life Kathy was leading. I found myself drowning in her flirtatious exchanges with her affair partner, leaving me grappling with a profound sense of betrayal and shattered trust. I was partially correct, Kathy was cheating on me, but not only with Tony. I discovered that she had flings and one-night stands with many of my friends. I was overwhelmed with anger and disbelief. How could I not have known? I went into autopilot mode and quickly printed out all the chat conversations she had with her lovers. I didn't know how to confront her about this. In the 6 years of our marriage, we had barely had an argument. She was just so adorable that I never said no to anything. I saw her referring to me as a puppet in one of the conversations with her affair partner. My world, which had revolved around her, crumbled into pieces after seeing those explicit chats and compromising pictures. I decided to track her WhatsApp messages to get more insight. I learned that after leaving her lover's house, she messaged her girlfriend to go shopping. I was torn between wanting to run away and bury myself somewhere, never to see her face again, and the burning desire to understand why she had cheated on me despite everything I had done for her. I was raging with anger, my head heavy, and I could feel the grief traveling to my gut. As soon as Kathy reached home, I threw the printouts of the conversation at her face. I couldn't think of a better way to confront her. She froze for a moment, seeing herself exposed. If it were anyone else, they might have shown remorse and pleaded for forgiveness, but this was Kathy. She was an entitled woman who seemed to think she owned the world. Instead of feeling guilty for her actions, she just became defensive. She accused me of invading her privacy, shouting, "How dare you log into my laptop and check my messages?" I lost my mind at that point. It was the first time I had ever yelled at her, and I asked her firmly to explain her infidelity. She kept insisting it was just for fun, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Do you sleep with half a dozen men that I know for fun?" I asked her. I made it clear that I couldn't live with her anymore and that I was divorcing her. When I spelled out the word divorce, she turned pale. Until then, she had been fighting back, confident that she could get away with her actions. But now, she got a reality check when I asked her to pack her things and leave. She could have never imagined that I would ask her to do so, given how deeply in love I had been with her. She tried to hug me and pacify me, but I shrugged her off. That's when she grabbed my knees and begged for forgiveness, claiming it was a one-time mistake. I might have forgiven her if it were just a one-time mistake, but it wasn't. It was a malicious act, deliberately and meticulously planned, more than a dozen times. More than a baker's dozen times to cheat and betray me. I felt humiliated. She slept with my friends while mocking my loving and subdued nature. She even told my friends that I wasn't wild and adventurous enough, which is why she was seeking those qualities from them. I felt disgusted, and I still can't get over those conversations where she made fun of my love and care. The visuals of those conversations continue to haunt me. I left the house and went to my best friend Mark. Thankfully, he wasn't involved with Kathy, or else I would have been shattered to the core with no one to share my grief. So, I poured out everything to him, crying and howling like a fifth grader. After hearing me out completely, Mark suggested that maybe all of this started 2 years back when we met at a school reunion. He said that our school friends were mesmerized by Kathy's beauty and charisma. He even mentioned that Tony, the same guy Kathy was with that day, said he would consider himself blessed if he could spend just one private moment with her. I couldn't believe that Mark hadn't informed me about all this earlier. Mark explained that he hadn't taken those remarks seriously and had brushed it off as typical guy talk. It's common for men to say such things about their friend's attractive wife, but it's often not meant seriously. While I was discussing all this with Mark, my phone was bombarded with messages and calls from Kathy, who was asking for forgiveness. In a fit of rage, I called her and demanded to know when all this started. She sobbed from the other end, and I kept repeating myself, asking when it had all begun. "Did this happen at my school reunion?" In the midst of her sobbing, she finally confessed that it did start at the reunion. At the event, we all exchanged contact information, and that's when Kathy got in touch with my school friend. She admitted that it started with a friendly text on social media, which gradually progressed into flirty conversations, eventually leading to physical infidelity. It started as a one-time experience, but she loved the thrill and continued to betray me. She had a physical relationship with at least 6 of my friends and many other men. I spent the next week at my friend's house, getting my STD tests done and hiring a lawyer. I sent the divorce papers to her through my lawyer and the official notice to vacate my home. I don't want to see her face ever again. It's been a month since that fateful day, and I'm still not able to come to terms with the fact that she was cheating on me for the last 2 years. I feel like such a fool for never doubting her intentions. All I want is for this pain to be over so that I can move on with my life. Right now, I feel clueless and directionless. In the last month, I've isolated myself, cutting off from everyone, immersing myself in video games. I've called in sick at work for most of the last month and have been working from home for the remaining days. I just don't want to meet anyone. My divorce is going to be settled next week, and I'm feeling relieved to finally be released from the clutches of my ex-wife. After I left the house and stayed at Mark's place for a week, Kathy continued to live in our home. She refused to accept the divorce, insisting that I take her affairs lightly, claiming they didn't mean anything to her. Well, you know what? They meant a lot to me. She didn't leave the house until my lawyer sent her an official notice to vacate. Until then, she held on to the hope that I would come back to her once my anger subsided and my love for her took over. After receiving the notice, she bombarded my phone with messages and voicemails, begging for forgiveness and a fresh start. But I turned a blind eye to all her pleas, and that's when she turned offensive. She blamed me for being cold and unadventurous, and if someone in the world deserved an award for narcissism, it had to be Kathy. She's the most selfish person I've ever come across. I don't know what I was thinking when I fell in love with her. I had to block her from everywhere because she wasn't letting me move on with my life. I've lost count of the weeks I've spent on the sofa, crying and cursing my fate. Despite the court hearings, Kathy wasn't ready to divorce me. Of course, she didn't want to lose her ATM. She pleaded for us to get back together, but I was adamant about divorcing her. She didn't just cheat on me, she humiliated me and mocked my love and care, and I can't forgive her for that. She claimed the right to stay in my house because we had been together for 6 years. As if that wasn't enough, she demanded a significant alimony for the divorce, asserting that it was an open marriage between us. She framed me as the one who had encouraged her to open the marriage, and later when my insecurities took over, I wanted a divorce. What a load of nonsense. I was never in favor of open marriages. She even alleged that I was having an affair with my colleagues. Of course, she couldn't prove her baseless claims, and the court rejected her demands. If anyone needs compensation, it's me. In fact, my lawyers even asked me if I wanted to claim a penalty amount, but I declined. I know she's jobless, and her parents would have to bear that cost. I don't want to penalize them for their daughter's mistakes. After 6 months of mental trauma and several breakdowns, I'm relieved that it's all going to end in a few days. I got a call from my lawyer a minute ago, informing me that the court is going to grant us the divorce next week. I rejoined my guitar classes and even took some certification courses that helped me get a promotion in the financial year. After the divorce, Kathy continued to contact me through unknown numbers or landlines. Sometimes she pleaded with me to get back with her, other times she threatened me with dire consequences for leaving her, and sometimes she cursed me for her miserable life. Meanwhile, I saw my friends' Instagram stories with Kathy, where she was partying and dancing with them. I decided to block all the friends with whom Kathy had cheated on me. I have no idea what she's up to, and I didn't want any reminders of that painful past. I haven't dated anyone since the divorce, as I feel I'm not ready to open my heart to someone new just yet. A few weeks ago, my best friend Mark tried to set me up on a date with his colleague Molly. This was his third attempt, and he didn't leave it to chance this time. He picked me up from my office and dropped me off at the cafe where I was supposed to meet Molly. Although nothing romantic came out of that meeting, I had a good conversation after a long time. Molly was a nice girl, but not someone I saw as a romantic partner. This meeting did, however, instill a spark in me to give myself another chance. I'm considering installing some dating apps to further explore my chances. I want to share that over the past year, I've had some meaningful conversations with my parents-in-law. They reached out to me to apologize for their daughter's behavior, and I appreciated their gesture. My father-in-law was quite vocal about Kathy's entitlement and how she had been pampered to the point where she felt she could do anything she wanted. It was an eye-opener for me. Kathy's younger sister, Nancy, also reached out to me and apologized for Kathy's narcissism. Nancy has been a constant source of support and motivation for me to move on with my life. She, too, has been a victim of Kathy's cruelty, something I wasn't aware of until recently. Nancy shared the backstory behind Kathy's entitled behavior. It turns out that Kathy was the pampered child in the family, born after several miscarriages. She even used to mock Nancy by saying their parents brought her into this world to be a playmate for Kathy. Nancy is way more mature and understanding, and I find comfort and compassion in our conversations. Besides my best friend Mark, Nancy has been instrumental in encouraging me to give myself a second chance. Her intentions are genuine, and she genuinely wants the best for me. Lately, I've been enjoying her company, and I can't help but notice the tickly feelings I get when I'm around her. I discussed this with Mark, and he advised me to stay away from Nancy, fearing it might lead to complications with Kathy. I followed his advice and didn't speak to Nancy for a while. However, I can't deny that I miss our conversations, and she has become an important part of my life. After ghosting Nancy for 2 days, I felt hollow inside. I realized that I was developing feelings for her, and I didn't want to create any confusion. So, I decided to confront her and asked her for a quick catch-up over lunch the next day. I assumed she might be angry with me for ghosting her, given my past experiences with Kathy. However, Nancy surprised me by not being angry at all. In fact, she was concerned about my safety during those 2 days, which touched me deeply. During our lunch, I mustered the courage to pour out my heart and told her about my feelings. Maybe it was because I felt so comfortable around her. To my surprise, Nancy shared that she felt the same way. She also suggested that it might be just a phase, that I was taking her as a support system, and she was merely being a nice friend to help me. Her honesty and maturity instantly won me over. I decided to let these feelings take a backseat and started exploring dating apps again to meet other women. But I must admit that the peace and solace I found in Nancy were something I couldn't find with anyone else. We both tried to move on with our lives by going out with colleagues, but somehow, we got stuck with each other's feelings. After a month of this experiment, we both decided to stop seeing other people and, instead, put in the effort to get to know each other better. We finally started talking like potential partners, and I had never been so happy and content. After talking for 2 years and officially dating for 1, we decided to get married. However, our path to marriage was not an easy one. We had to address the elephant in the room, which was Kathy. We knew the consequences of our decisions and that Kathy would not take the news well. I learned from mutual friends that Kathy had moved on with her life and was dating other people. Nancy never discussed Kathy, except for a few initial instances when she shared her difficult childhood experiences with her. Nancy informed her parents about our relationship, and they were shocked to hear the news. Needless to say, they cautioned Nancy about Kathy's potential reaction. As we anticipated, Kathy's response was just as tumultuous as we had feared. Kathy's reaction to our relationship has been nothing short of chaotic. She broke into Nancy's house and berated her for being involved with her brother-in-law. Kathy even called me from a landline and hurled abusive threats, accusing me of trying to manipulate Nancy and her family against her. She threatened to involve the police, claiming I was manipulating her sister. Kathy vowed to ruin our lives if we proceeded with our plans to marry each other. Initially, her words did terrify me, but when she started blaming Nancy for ruining her life, I lost my patience. It was Kathy's actions that had caused so much misery for us, and it was Nancy who had provided support during those tough times. Now, when things were getting better for us, Kathy was playing the victim card. Kathy's rage only reinforced my determination to marry Nancy. We both wanted to move forward with our lives and get married. Kathy had been using her parents as a last resort to cancel the wedding. She urged them to disown Nancy for choosing to marry me. Kathy accused me of brainwashing Nancy and claimed that I didn't truly love her, that I was only marrying her to get back at Kathy. In a strange way, she was partly right. 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined loving anyone except Kathy. But now, things have changed, and I'm genuinely in love with Nancy. This love is more mature and based on mutual respect, unlike my previous relationship. In the last month, Kathy has made our lives a living hell. She's trying everything possible to stop our wedding. She's emotionally blackmailing her parents to pressure Nancy into calling off the wedding. Her parents know me well, so they haven't said anything to me directly, but they've gently asked Nancy to reconsider her decision. I believe Kathy's parents are also at fault for enabling her entitled attitude. They should have supported Nancy and set Kathy straight. Nevertheless, the wedding is scheduled for this coming Sunday, and I'm fully aware that Kathy might create a ruckus at the venue. She has even threatened to vandalize the place and worse. To ensure Nancy's safety, I've arranged for extra security and provided them with pictures of Kathy. My parents have contacted Nancy's parents and asked them to keep Kathy in check, but the truth is, Kathy seems beyond anyone's control. I don't know what the future holds, but I am eager to start this new chapter of my life with Nancy. The wedding turned out to be a dramatic climax, just as expected. Kathy managed to gate crash at the wedding venue, sneaking into Nancy's room with a pair of scissors in an attempt to destroy her wedding dress. Fortunately, a few of Nancy's friends caught her in the act and chased her out of the room. You should never run with scissors, and before others could spot her, she had already vandalized the wedding venue. She pulled down the flower decorations and even threw water at the food items. Kathy was causing chaos with the security agents, and she was beyond anyone's control. My father decided to call the police to stop her from causing any further destruction. Her parents pleaded with the police to let her go, so they took her home, and they did not attend the wedding. Nancy was disheartened by her parents' absence at the wedding, but my father stepped in to walk her down the aisle instead. It's been a week of togetherness with Nancy, and I feel that we're truly meant for each other, given everything we've gone through. Please wish me luck in the future, as this chapter of my life has come to a close. Dear listener, if you have reached this far, please click on the subscribe button. It will be a great help.